Brendan Lemieux.
I love Lemieux. I really do. I like what he brings to the table. That sort of grit, but also has some offensive talent. But I feel like he had a down year. I feel like I was expecting a little bit more from him this year. He did get injured, and he came back from that injury. Just I don't know if it was his hand was still hurting him or whatever it was, but he was having trouble. He had a nice game. It was in the Dallas game. One of the last couple of games, he had a nice game. I think it was in Dallas. But still, I would give him a B minus. A little underwhelming for me this year. I was expecting him to take maybe a bigger step forward this year, a little bit more of an agitator out there. And I think I always hold everybody to that sort of, when you're in that position, to that sort of Sean Avery sort of standard. And he felt to me well below that this year. So I give him a B minus.
All right, I like it. And I'll say this, that Brendan is definitely going to have to work his tail off in training camp next year for a spot.
Yeah, I agree. I like him on paper, what he should be bringing to the table.
Great
I just
kid,
don't
great
know.
Personality. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think he brought it enough this year. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from him.
All right. Philip Heatle, Mr. Heatle. He started off down in the farm system and came up and what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in this B area.
It's
pretty
right,
boring.
Man. I think that might be the trend here. So
yeah. I'm gonna give him a B right in the middle. I really I see a great future for him. I think he was a bit invisible at times this year, but he's a 20-year-old player. I mean that stuff's gonna happen. He's trying to figure out the league. He started the year going down to AHL, and I love how he handled it. We saw how other players were dealing with that. Obviously, Kravtsov, and Anderson, how they were dealing with sort of demotions this year, and for Heatle to go down there, look himself in the mirror, just absolutely kill it down in the AHL, and then end up coming back up. Really impressed me this year. He put up 23 points. It would have been close to 30 this year, which is a ton of points for a 20-year-old center. So I'm excited for his future. I give him a B. Like I said, if they do end up not signing Strome or only sign him for another year or so, I'm more than confident with Heatle picking up the slack and sliding into that second line position ultimately down the road.
Yeah, I think he's another guy too. He's going to have to find the net a lot more. He's just we've talked about these guys as far as support players and stuff, and I think that's going to be something down the road. I mean, again, great kid. Shows great signs of talent here and there, but definitely going to need him to kind of pop some more in there and be a more effective.
Oh yeah, he's a support player this year, but he needs to turn into a player that you're counting on every night to score. Yeah, absolutely. He still has to take that step back. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely has the potential, no doubt about it. All right, Mr. Fost, Mr. Jesper Fost, number 17.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to give him an A.
Woo!
I just and I don't think he deserves to be
your homie. That's who he is.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve to be on a line with Panarin, but he pulled it off, and he brings, that defensive responsibility to that line. He's like a chameleon out there. You could put him on any line and he's going to succeed. You put him on the fourth line and he'll take on that defensive responsibility there and go against the other team's number one line and help shut them down. Or put him on a line with Panarin, and he'll start scoring some goals. So he is really, such an invaluable player. And he's one of those guys that you absolutely 100% need to have on a team that's contending for a cup. He's a glue guy that every Stanley Cup winning team has on their roster. So, and he just brings it every night. And I love having him around, and he's another guy that they need to be re-signing. The fact that they didn't trade him at the deadline, which I thought maybe they would, The fact that they didn't trade him makes me think that they are going to bring him back. And once his team is contending for a cup in whatever it is, 2 or 3 years, he's going to be a big part of that. Again, whether that's on the fourth line or the first line, he's going to be in the mix.
I like it. He's just been a guy that you get surprised from him, and I like getting surprised from him. And like I said, he's been pretty much any task that Quinn is thrown at him, he's pretty much he's worked damn hard to come through on it. So good call there on the A. I agree with you there. I'm probably not going to agree with you too much, and maybe not on this next guy. But the 19-year-old, Mr. Capo Caco, number 24, number 1 in my heart. How about you, KD?
This is tough. I mean, if you're grading him on the season,
do we need to go further down the alphabet?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going further down the alphabet. You're gonna have to give him a C, and I'm being nice.
You are being nice.
That's
because he's a nice kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's young. He's still learning. But trust me, the expectations for him this year were big. I mean, I wasn't expecting like 30 goals from him this year. But you did expect a little bit more. And, those 2 goals in the last game actually helped him out because he did end up with 14 goals, which isn't terrible. 23 points. But, he was just way too invisible. At times this year, you just expected more, from a skill perspective from him. He has that big body. I thought he'd be a little bit more physical out there as well. And, he was lacking in a lot of areas out there. He's another guy who's going to have to, go home, get himself in better shape.
The first round draft pick pass is over next year.
It's true, man. I'm just hopeful that this is just a huge learning experience for him. Again, he's super young. He'll go home, if it's now until September, whatever ends up happening, he works on it, says, look, I need to, get in the gym and work out more. I got to, work on my skating or whatever it is he feels as though he needs to do. Because I'm sure going through the season, he's saying to himself, wow, I just can't keep up skating wise, or I can't keep up physically or whatever it is. Hopefully he does the right thing, goes home, gets whatever trainer he needs to work with and comes into training camp where everybody's like, wow, he's faster this year. He's stronger this year. He's smarter this year. So, I think that will happen, and I have no concerns about him whatsoever going forward. But if we're just sort of looking at this year specifically, I mean, I don't know how you can get above a C. Again, I think I'm above a C, and again, I think I'm being very kind.
Well, you're a kind fella. It's all good, KD. Look, I mean, if this is the team, the state of the team, the organization, the rebuild, and everything for a kid like this to kind of, hang on for the ride, and he better take all that experience, everything you just said, and next year, hopefully it's Capo, kick-ass Caco next year, and that's the kind of guy that comes back and he takes all this experience. He's a smart kid. He's good. He's got it. He hasn't been able to produce, and like I said, I think under any other situation, he probably wouldn't get a sniff. But he was, top rated, came in, top draft picked, obviously, and he hasn't, I think, Caco has survived on this team because this team has survived. And I am sure, we don't know, but I'm sure, in the locker room, on the bench, the reason that kid is still on that bench and is still playing is because he's obviously earned his stripes amongst his teammates even before his coach. So I have to believe the core of this kid is good, and that's why he's on this team, because he didn't end up like Anderson, going back to Sweden and everything else. So I'd have to say it's very promising for this kid, and I'm sure he's not going to waste this year. So C is good, and I think next year he'll bump that up big time for next year.
Where does he fall on the Paulie grading scale? I'm interested to see where you put him.
Well, I could be funny about this. I could be mean about this, or
be honest about it.
Well, I think I was just honest. I think I just was very honest about the
hear
kid.
a grade, though. I want to hear a grade, though.
Yeah, I'll stay safe with the C. I'm not going to be nasty. I'm not going to
Oh,
be
man.
nasty. I can't. I've been nasty enough.
That's
There's no
disappointing.
point. And
That's
during these tough
disappointing.
times, it's we have to rise above. We have to
We
stay
all got to
positive.
band together. I get it.
I'm pulling for the kid primarily because I really don't want to have to change the intro next year to the show. Because then it's going to cost me money, and he's got to do well. He's got to make the team next year. All right. All right. At the beginning of the season, we obviously had a laugh, Buddy. Only because of what's going on, I would have had the jersey to you, but McKegg, your boy McKegg.
I don't know. Actually, the last month or so, he's been great. He's popped in some goals and brought in a little bit more. I mean, from what you really expected from him this year, I mean, B-. I really didn't expect much. He ended up with 9 points, 5 goals. I didn't know if he'd get 9 minutes this year. So for him to get, that, he sort of stabilized that fourth line once Anderson went out, and they sort of gave him that fourth line center position. I thought he was real good the last month or so. And the big reason that this team, for me, started to turn it around was that they figured out the fourth line. It wasn't, Smith and Haley and Anderson. They brought in guys that can actually play hockey, and you put a fourth line together with a guy like McKegg or Lemieux or Howden. I mean, that's much better. So, I'll give him a B-. I was pleasantly surprised with what he was able to bring, to the team and solidify that fourth line. And again, he's sort of a guy who's sort of been around the AHL. He would have helped if he would have stayed in Hartford too. He would have been a good guy to have down there as well. But yeah, B-. Love my McKegg guy, even though I'm not getting his jersey apparently. But still love that name. One of the great one of the great names in NHL history.
Absolutely, good stuff. I tell you what, for the sake of time and games played, and obviously the guys, we'll pass on Giuseppe right now. Obviously, the kid did pretty good for us. We'll also pass on Gauthier right now too. Obviously, joining the team, all good stuff. But instead of just going into those guys, Haley and Howden will also pass on too. That all right with you? You got any quick notes about any of those 4 guys?
I thought Howden, similar to Lemieux, was a little disappointing this year for me. I was hoping for a little bit more from him. I thought he got it. I think fans were a little tough on him, but I need to see more from him going forward.
All right. That's
quickly.
Nice of you. That's very nice of you.
And I'm a Howden guy. I'm usually defending him, but he was disappointing this year.
All right. Howden about that, folks. That's what KD thinks. All right. All right, let's finish up the forwards here, the big guys here. Obviously, Pavel, Snoochie, Bucci's, Buchnevich.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with let's go with an A- there.
All right.
I thought he really had a great year this year. He had trouble scoring earlier in the year, and I know fans were down on him a bit, that he was underachieving. But, he was still driving play and still had the opportunities, just wasn't able to score. And once he was finally able to sort of shooting percentage caught up to, his game, we saw, his true talent there. And he's been one of the best players over the last month or so. So I give him, what did I say? A-? Is that what I said?
Yes,
first?
I wrote it down. A-.
Okay.
Yes.
I forgot what I said.
I'm keeping records of all this.
Goodness gracious, this White Claw hit you.
Exactly. That's why I just...
But he's a guy I know they were mentioning, not they, but rumors around trade deadline time was that he could be potentially somebody that the Rangers were trading, which, I had said a number of times on this show, that would have been absolutely counterproductive and ridiculous to what the Rangers were trying to do. A young guy who's on the verge of scoring, 55 to 60 points this year, you're going to trade? That's obscene. So, I liked what I've seen from him, especially after he cross-checked Marchand in the back, which was phenomenal. as well. I mean, that deserves like a
He's
6-year
developing
contract.
into a good Ranger, man. I mean, he's 6'3". He's a big boy. He doesn't mind going to the net. And I think he's just going to get better and better on this team. I'm with you. I'm a Snoochie Boochies fan.